Hi, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, I want to add motions to the camera, like walking, shooting, and so on, easily from scratch. I will not use animation clips. I want to use scripting, and I can add infinite motions with just a small script, and it's modular. So stick around until the end. Adding movement effects like walking, shooting, and so on, it's not too complicated. It's not a complex animation. We can do it in code. And as you know, doing these kind of works and the code give you more modularity. And animation clips add static motions, and you need to add animation clips for each motion and each game object. So we need a small script to do this work for us. Here we have a scene and a character controller, which it has a script here that you can see. It has a couple of capabilities, for example, walking, camera rotation, and also jumping. Let's play the game and see. Here we can move the character, rotate the camera, and also jump. You can get this script from Black Asset Store, and also the link is in the description. Also, if you want to know how to add post-processing to add realism to the scene like this, you can watch this tutorial, and also the link is in the description. And also, if you want to know how to add volumetric fog to add realism to this scene, you can watch the tutorial here, and the link is in the description. Alright, the concept is we have a player, a character controller here, and the camera. Here we need to move the camera, but not the camera itself. We need to add a game object, an empty game object, and make the camera the child of the empty game object. And we need a script to manage the empty game object and move it, and manage the motions. And also, if we want another motion, we need to add another empty game object. So here, let's create a monobehavior script, a C# script, camera mover. Alright, here we have the script, and let's try the code step by step. First, I need a transform that's the empty game object, serialized field. We need to modify and assign the variable, and we need serialized field in private mode. Transform object. Alright, also to add the motions, we have something called animation curve. Animation curve look like the animation clips, but it's modular, and we can get all the values from the curves using the time. Also, we need a timer that we can counter it and get the values from the curves using this timer. Alright, now we need private methods to move and rotate the camera. So we need two methods, one for moving, one for rotating. Here we need a common instruction, calculating the time, and also getting the value from curve. But we need to specify which axis we want to modify, X, Y, or Z. And for the rotation, we have the same instruction. For example, we have a curve that we need to apply it on X. So we need to activate the X axis, or we want to apply this to X and Z. So we need to activate X, Z. So we need three variables, a boolean for X, another boolean for Y, and another boolean for Z. We need to check these variables. For example, if X is activated, so apply the value provided by this curve to the X axis. Here, instead of calculating the timer in the move and also getting the values from the curve and setting the X, Y, and Z to the value provided by the curve in the move, we need another method to calculate it through that method, because if we write this logic here, we need to write it here as well. So we write another method and call that method in move and rotate. We need a private method that returns a vector tree, the result, and I name it getVector. This method has two parameters. The first is a vector tree, which we need to pass position or the rotation to this, and a timer. Here in the getVector, we need to declare a parameter whack, which we need to pass position or rotation to this value. We need to calculate the timer plus equals to time dot delta time. Now we need to modify the vector tree. Here let's do it for the x. If x, which is a boolean, was true, so we need to call the curve and call the evaluate method, which it gets the curve value based on the timer. I'll explain the curves in the editor in detail later. So here we need to pass the timer, else if the x wasn't true, so get the vec.x, which we don't need to modify the x, and we need to do it for the y and z axis. Right, then I need to return the vec itself. Alright, in the move method, we need to get the local position of the object. Here we need to write vector tree pose equals to object dot local position. Here we need to call the getVector and pass the pose. But here we have a return value, so we need to set the pose equals to the returned value. And finally, I need to set the local position of the object to pose. It's simple. We get the local position and send it to the getVector, and here we have some calculations, and finally we will get the result vector. For the rotate, we have same structure but kind of different. We have vector tree, rot, and here from the object I need to access to the Euler angles, and in the rot we have getVector and rot, excuse me, and also I need to set the Euler angles to rot. The logic is same, we've changed some properties. Alright, now let's declare the update. We need to call the move and rotate in the update, but we need controllers. For example, we can't run move and rotate at the initial point. We need two booleans to control the movement and rotation. So here private bool b move, which we have the permission to execute the move method, and we need to set it false, because at the initial point we don't need to rotate and move the object. Here we need to check both the variables if bmove is true, so execute this. Brotate was true, execute the rotate. Right, it is good. We need to add a component of camera mover to the camera or the player and call the move and rotate from ch controller, which we have handle movement method here, and we need to check the x and z, which is our inputs, and we need to check them. If they were not equal to the 0, then move or rotate the game object. But we have an update here, so we don't need to call these methods in the update method and the ch controller. We just need to set this or this to true, and move and rotate will be executed automatically. So here we need two public methods, set move, which it gets boolean, which we can say it's false or true in the ch controller. I will try and you will see. And here we need another method called set rotate. And here bool be rotate. Alright, here we need to set these two variables and these two methods. But we need to call this, which it refers to be move here, not here, because we have a variable called bmove and a parameter bmove, which we have same names. So we need to call this to refer to this variable. Bmove equals to bmove, which this name is this variable and this name is this parameter. This b rotate equals to b rotate. Also, sometimes we need to restart the timer because timer never gonna be decreased, and we need a restart method to reset the timer, and here we need to set it equals to 0. Alright, in the ch controller we need to declare a variable of type camera mover and camera movement motion. Alright, in the handle movement, here we need to check X and Z, which is the horizontal and vertical inputs. If X was not equal to 0 or Z was not equal to 0 as well, we need to call camera movement motion and set move or set rotate based on your needs and send true. Else camera movement motion set move to false. Alright, save the code and get back to the Unity. Alright, here we need to assign this code to the camera or player. I'll assign it to the camera. Here we need to create a new empty game object and call it camera walker example. And here we need to set this as a child of the camera walker. Here we need to assign this camera walker to the object here, and this is the animation curve. Here we can create a curve, which this horizontal line is the timeline, is a time, and this is the value. For example, if we want to, where's the camera here? If we want to move the camera along the y-axis, we need to get the curve value, which is the vertical. We need to get the values provided from the curve and set the y-axis to the curve values. Here, actually, we need to move this, not the camera. So, here in the y-axis, we need to move it as much as the 0.3. Actually, in the walking process, we need to move it as much as the 0.3 and move it back to the 0. This loop, actually. So, in the curve, let's pick one of these default curves. Here, we can modify it. We have 3 nodes here. We can modify the node, and also we can add more nodes using the double clicking. Also, we can right click on the node and press the edit key. Here we have time. We can change the time of this node and also the value. The value should be 0 at the initial point because our position of the camera walker is 0. And also here at the end point, finishing point, we need to set it to 0 because it should get back to the 0. And here, instead of 2, we need to set it to 0.3 because we decide to set this y-axis to 0.3. Alright, but when the delta time runs, it gets the values smoothly. For example, this, and at the finishing point, it will not reset. And the time continues its work and we don't have any curve. So we have 2 methods. Resetting the time after the 1 second, or looping this curve. So I select the looping. I select all the nodes and press this button and press loop. Here, as you can see, we have a loop structure, infinite loop. Alright, here we need to select the axis we want to modify. We want Y. We can select all the axes. And here also you can see the B move and B rotate, but don't modify them. At the final point, we need to assign the camera to the camera movement. Decrease the walk speed a little and to run the project and see the result. Here, as you can see, we have the walking motion effect easily with code. We can add extra motions by adding empty game objects, for example shooting motion, and make the camera walker the child of the shooting motion. Also, in this case, we need to assign the camera mover to each of these game objects, not the camera, because in that case we have multiple camera movers and we can't handle it through the player. We can download this camera mover from the Black Asset Store, and also the link is in the description. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Feel free to share your questions and ideas in the comments.